Hey everybody, and welcome to part 4 of the Evergreen Gardens park playthrough. So in the last episode, we spent quite a significant amount of time building, many new coasters, but we also did quite a few flat rides as well. I think we started off by basically filling in the area around the Arrow coaster, just adding a few details here and there. Also adding in some food stalls as well, because we were kind of lacking up in that area of the park. Then we moved across to the other side of the park with the other big hill, finished off the chairlift, and then kind of added in some gentle rides in the Haunted Mansion and the Motion Simulator. And then I believe we went over and built a third steel mini coaster, basically kind of wrapping around the spiral slide. And I just wanted to include basically another little family coaster there, and just give that area a bit more movement. And then then it was time to get into the big stand-up coaster, and then we put in a couple a racing steeplechase, or two racing steeplechases, and then a suspended swinging coaster as well. And then there was the shuttle loop coaster right at the back of the park as well, just as it was cheesing it a little bit, I suppose, but I think it was a good addition to the park, and it really did add to the soft guest gap nicely with I think it was 100 guests that you get for a looping or a steel coaster. It turned out really well. We're now, the soft guest gap has like really exploded, like well past 2,000 guests, I think. And so we've reached the guest goal quite easily right now, and that's great. So now it's just a case of continuing to get some income so we can essentially build out the rest of the park. So yeah, the first part of the build here was to basically decorate the dueling steeplechases. So yeah, I spent quite a bit of time there actually, basically placing down a lot of the trees that I had deleted to put the steeplechase down there in the first place. Also added in another path just alongside the bit of lake there, because I thought if I didn't do that, it would be a bit of a missed opportunity, and it also allowed me to place a few extra food stalls, kind of at a somewhat of a scenic location, I suppose. And with the decorating of the steeplechases, I used quite a bit of the brown dirt texture, just because I don't know, a bit of variety, I suppose, but I think it would make sense in a way that the surface texture underneath all those supports would be a little less grassy. So yeah, I did try and add in quite a lot of trees and shrubs, so it kind of looked somewhat of a dense-ish forest. I was pretty happy with the way it turned out in the end. It was quite a bit of money sunk into that area, but I think it was well worth it in the end. And then got on with the next task of this build, which was a mine train coaster, kind of following the river again. Actually gave it the name River Run, just because I felt I tried to go for like an aerodynamics sort of inspired mine train. I did want to get a second lift hill somewhere. But there just wasn't the space for it. I ended up going just with like a pretty small lift hill. I think it was like 3 height units up from the station. And I really liked how it turned out. I did enjoy how the way it kind of flows down the river. And I think it has a good balance of left and right turns. And it just kind of squeezes in next to the that other green steel mini coaster in there. I was a little bit worried that they would clash in places, just as in like get too close to each other, but I think it worked out. I didn't want them to interfere too much, and very happy with how that turned out, I think. And then we go in and add another kind of food area just near the lift hill of the stand-up coaster, and I was kind of thinking another ride would be suitable here. But honestly, the only one I could really think of would be the spiral slide, and of course there's one just across the river sitting there already, so yeah, I didn't want to have like two identical rides kind of so close to each other. I'm not against doing like multiple of the same ride in parks. Like I've got two scramblers in this park, but they're quite far away from each other, so it's not like immediately obvious that you've got identical rides, and they're completely different colors as well. But yeah, I just ended up putting a food court there because there wasn't much food going on in that area. So yeah, I think it turned out reasonably well. Oh yeah, it was pretty exciting developments for the park in that we've now got fried stalls as well as the countless burger bars and ice cream stalls that were only in the park at this time. Well, before I put the fry stalls, I mean. So yeah, finally got some variety for the guests, which I'm sure they were crying out for. But in all honesty, it was good to get, a little bit of extra variety, because it was feeling quite repetitive just putting a burger stand and drink store next to each other on every occasion. So yeah, then it was after I did that, it was time to get started on basically the last big project for this park, which was a big wooden coaster. Now, the wooden coaster, funnily enough, is actually something you start off with right from the start of the scenario. But I did kind of have in my mind that I wanted to reserve this area right at the back for the wooden coaster. So yeah, it's one of those things. Like I think every time I play Evergreen Gardens, I basically put a wooden coaster in this area. Now, I did kind of restrict myself area-wise, like space-wise, I mean. Like, I usually allow myself a bit of a bit more footprint than I usually do here. I kind of bounded myself in with the monorail, which... oh yeah, that was another thing that I finished off in the last part of the build the last episode. That actually took quite a bit of money, and I think it contributed to some of the financial troubles that I've had in this episode. I shouldn't say troubles, like it's just the amount of income I've had hasn't really matched how much I've needed to build these rides and do all the decorating, but we finally get there in the end. But yeah, so with the wooden coaster, I did play around with ideas off camera, as I usually do, just to make sure that I don't waste too much time actually building the thing and making decisions in the recording here. So yeah, it's quite a spaghetti a spaghetti sort of layout. Actually ended up calling it Spaghetti Western because it was meant to be kind of a forest or western theme. So yeah, I thought that was a somewhat of a clever name. Usually I'm not usually that good with names, coming up with good names by myself, which is why I usually ask you guys to help out on quite a few occasions. But yeah, I was pretty pleased with myself after that one. But yeah, the wooden coaster, it basically, heaps of left and right turns, lots of sweeping corners. And I think the big thing for this one is I really wanted to get a diagonal lift hill in, just because I usually like to have at least one coaster with a diagonal lift hill in my parks, mainly for variety. I think it contributes well to the aesthetics of your park. Just about every other coaster in the park, well, I think everyone apart from the Steel Mini coasters with the curved lift hills had their lift hill on like following the grid. So yeah, it was. I think it was a good thing to get that variety in, and I think it also complements the shape of the monorail in that area of the park as well. So yeah, I was really happy with how it turned out in the end, and I was a little worried about finances, to be honest. Like that wooden coaster, like the ideas I was getting off camera, like it basically just. It kept getting bigger and bigger in terms of the layout, and I was really worried that I wouldn't actually have the finances to pull it off in the scenario, but got it done in the end. So in amongst all that, I was doing a little bit of park maintenance, just with handyman and mechanics. There were a couple areas before, particularly around the launched freefall, where there was the path had just completely filled up with vomit. And I think it's because one of the handymen had wandered off and started mowing grass. Now, with that, I haven't really been disabling the mowing of the grass like I probably should have been, but I really wanted to keep a bit of the curated feel of the mowed lawns in this park. Just I guess it's called Evergreen Gardens, right? And I wanted to sort of keep the curated feel in as many areas as I could, rather than just letting these areas kind of turn into weeds. So yeah, unfortunately it came at the cost of a few areas of path being sort of neglected. And that's, yeah, if you do that around launch free falls, yeah, you're going to be punished like pretty quickly, because they're just, they've got such high nausea ratings, and they've also got a really high throughput. So they're just going to, they're going to turn your areas of path into, undesirable areas, I suppose. So after that, I put in one last ride in the 3D cinema, just on the hill next to the chairlift. One thing I was considering was a river rapids, kind of tying in and maybe going under the wooden coaster in places. But it just wasn't going to happen. There wasn't going to be enough space, and I maybe would have struggled for time as well. I guess money too. And I just didn't want to give myself the extra stress of trying to squeeze one of those in. So yeah, I ended up going with a 3D cinema on the hill, and took up a nice portion of the space there. I add in a few rocks, I suppose, just around the 3D cinema, just because otherwise that hill was like one continuous slope, which I think looks a little bit boring and somewhat artificial. So yeah, just go in and kind of wreak a bit of havoc on the landscaping there. But it was a bit of fun to do, actually. And added in a path just kind of next to the monorail and wooden coaster, just as a nice kind of viewing area. And then I unlock another food stall in the Candy Floss, which I put down next to the go-kart track, because that was actually something I had on the to-do list for quite a while, which was just fill in those little areas next to the track, either with just scenery or some extra food stalls. And that area, after kind of quickly scanning the area, there was not a lot of food going on, so it was good to get something new, as well as just a food stall in general in that spot. And there was some extra food added to the top of the hill here, just kind of overlooking the wooden coaster, which I really like the look of in the end. It all turned out pretty well, I think. After that, it was pretty much a case of just going in and I had to, of course, add the decorating to the mine train coaster too. I kept it kind of minimal. Like I definitely wanted to have a little bit of the kind of forest influence in amongst the mine trains. I think that probably made the most sense in terms of a theme. But I kept the bits along the river largely kind of free of clutter, just those nice little willow trees along the riverbank, as well as those beautiful silver birches. I really enjoy those trees. They just look great, especially near water. Then it was just after that it was mainly just doing a few bits and bobs around the place, just filling in a lot of areas that I had been meaning to go back to for a while. Just like here, where I kind of do a little bit of work at the kind of tunnel entrance of the monorail, just fill in a little bit of space, because otherwise it was just kind of a kind of boring hillside. Just add in a few extra food stalls around the place, and add in fences to areas where I think made sense. I didn't want to add a fence along every single bit of path in the park, just because I think, one, it takes ages, but also it's, I don't know, it can make it look a little too, I don't even know what the word is, but I think it's just nice to have some open paths in areas, and even using things like trees and shrubs to bound fences, as opposed to yeah, fences themselves. But yeah, after that, just I do modify a few of the handyman zones in particular. I'd been quite conservative with the amount of staff I had hired, because since I went for the pay for entry methodology, I didn't want to be spending a huge amount on staff. So yeah, I do add in, do get a bit more liberal with the hiring of staff, just to fill in, well, just to make sure that there was adequate coverage of some areas of high nausea rides, I suppose. So yeah, that's just about it for the build. I passed the goal pretty comfortably in the end. Yeah, it was really nice to do kind of a little bit different and going for a pay for entry strategy. It was a little bit different, but it was nice to see that I could still kind of completely decorate a park and fill it in with rides. It was also really interesting to see how the on-ride photo sections fared for the coasters. So I think the first one I had put in was for the looping coaster, which I built towards the end of year 1 and into year 2, I think. And looking at the stats, that had generated about 4 grand over the course of the scenario, which was pretty handy. I mean, it by no means made the ride profitable overall, in terms of the money it made versus how much it cost to build, but it certainly helped contribute to the overall income. And I think the arrow looper as well, that generated 2 or 3 grand itself. So yeah, little like handy amounts. And like I did add an on-ride photo section to every coaster that I could, even though the guests are limited to 1 on-ride photo all up. It's still, I think, worthwhile adding it to each coaster. So yeah, I think that paid off in the end. So yeah, I'd just like to say thank you all very much for watching. What I'll do now is just kind of let the camera follow all of the coasters in the park, which since there's so many, it's going to add quite a bit of length to the video, but I hope you guys don't mind and enjoy following them all along. And after that, I'll do the little before and after transition scenes where I go from the scenario when I first started to what the park looks like now. So yeah, it seems like you guys have been enjoying that little feature that I've been adding the last few videos. So yeah, really appreciate the feedback there, and I'll continue to do so. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the video. Thank you all very much for watching, and look forward to hopefully seeing you in the next one. Thank you very much, and cheers. Bye.